That J shape actually comes from the fact that the ground is moving very slowly.
That's awesome.
And that's causing the trees to grow that way. Okay? Now, the problem with that is that often after you see this, there's probably going to be a landslide soon. So this is ground that you want to watch for. And apparently, aside from just J-shaped trees, cracks in the ground are also a really big sign of a possible landslide. So if you see both of those, don't set up camp there for the night because you probably won't make it. So that is I
like that.
Yeah, it's a neat, fun fact. J-shaped trees means you could be in for a landslide.
You don't see them very often either.
I've never encountered it.
No.
I've never encountered that.
I bet we just haven't noticed it.
You've noticed that.
That's true.
I've seen them coming out
that
of
seems
the
like a
bank of a river before. But
Yeah.
That's not the same.
It's actually exactly
Actually,
the
it
same.
is actually exactly the same because the ground's moving.
They're
Erosion.
around, and then it grows up to the sun, so it curves.
That's
That's
true.
how it works.
Nature.
Erosion.
Nature.
Remember Scott's paper on erosion? Scott wrote a paper. Our friend Scott Slater wrote a paper on erosion when he was a kid. And he
For fun?
And he brought it up probably.
Yeah.
And he brought
One
it up.
time.
He brought it up one time, and then every time we could bring up erosion, Jeff and I would. We'd be like, erosion over there. Scott's an expert. He's
Or
like,
if it was on the news. Oh.
he's like, I wrote the paper 20 years ago. We're like, that's you, buddy.
They didn't come to you for the expert opinion?
You're the expert. Number 2, ocean levels severely drop. This one I actually knew. So tsunamis are usually formed with an earthquake when it happens underwater, which displaces the water above it.
Dang.
At this point, the waves can move as fast as a jet airplane at 500 miles per hour.
No doubt.
So what'll normally happen, this happened in the movie San Andreas,
Yep.
where all the water...
What's with the movie references today?
That's like number 9. I don't know. I've only seen 11 movies, so...
It's a good way to
Here
connect.
comes Men in Black.
Yeah, Men in Black's the
It's
only one
coming. I already
missing.
had prepared.
But when the water gets sucked out like that, like in the movie San Andreas, that's a really big sign that, something's coming. And you
Yep.
want to get to high ground and away from shore as fast as possible. And this is what happens just before a tsunami. So you may as well keep a lookout for the ocean level dropping along other beaches because tsunamis are most common in the Pacific, but they do happen everywhere.
In the rare instance where that doesn't happen and the tsunami still comes was 2004 Thailand, I believe, tsunami that wiped out
So what caused that
quite a
one?
bit. It was still an earthquake, but it just didn't go back and then.
I wonder if it was maybe the
Oh, it
earthquake
just came.
It just came.
Maybe it was closer. Maybe the earthquake was
It's
closer.
possible.
That could
I
be
don't-
like.
I'm not factual on that.
Yeah.
But I do know that it didn't do that.
Interesting.
So if the water gets
But they usually do that.
sucked out like crazy from the beach, leave.
Tsunamis,
Correct.
they kind of fascinate me. Like, it's terrible like the aftermath of it and how it affects people, but it's kind of amazing
beast.
that the
It's a-
ground just moves slightly, and then next thing you know, it's a catastrophe on the other side of the world.
I mean,
Yeah.
they ain't no joke.
No.
Yeah.
Water.
No, water's scary. The ocean, just in general,
Is a
like being
scary
around-
beast.
Yeah, it's just so massive.
Is it
Yeah.
ever?
That's what a lot of people say about me.
All 139 pounds of you.
If you want to take it that way.
I think we better. Anyhow, so choppy
great.
water channels at the beach. So if we show that image, basically what you're looking for is if you see a channel of choppy water on the beach, seaweed, debris moving away from the shore in a particular area, a section of discolored water, or a gap in the line of the waves, it's likely that a deadly rip current, not rip tide. The articles I read, it was really funny. Rip tide and rip current are very.
I don't know the difference.
That's not a correct. That's not a correct way. It is a rip current, which we're talking about specifically, and that's the real dangerous one.
Rip tide is where it just takes you out.
The tide in general goes out, but the rip current is underneath
Under.
the water that sucks you way, 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 way out.
Yeah, that's scary
and
stuff.
it moves super fast. So they're very fast, very powerful channels of water flowing away from shore. Rip currents kill over 100 people in the United States every year and are responsible for most lifeguard rescues. So if you actually get sucked in a rip current, it takes you out, and you're a good swimmer, the first thing you do, and you can see in this picture, you can just see where the break in the waves are, and then you can see where it goes all the way out and where the discoloring is and everything like that. It's pretty clear. So if you should get caught up in one and pulled out, you're supposed to swim direct parallel to the beach. Do not swim towards it because you're just fighting it like one of those infinity pools or whatever where they're shooting water at you. So you swim parallel to the shore until you break out of it, and you'll know when you break out of it because you'll quit getting shoved away from shore.
Yep.
And then you swim at an angle away from the rip current back towards shore at an angle.
I didn't
and
know
that's
that.
how you survive it. The problem is it takes so much out of you that a lot of people don't survive
I know,
it.
yeah, and a lot of people don't recognize when they're in it, and then they end up way out there, and then their first instinct is to go straight for shore, and like that's the advice I had. What you just said, except the way I heard it was just use the current to swim out until you get out past it, and then like almost like you're doing a U shape away, and then
Like a
over,
rabbit.
and then
and
back
just
in.
get back on the beach yonder.
Yeah, because
Okay.
you're using the momentum of the water just to get out of it as soon as you can.
Yeah, the problem is they can go out a really, really
Yeah.
long ways.
I mean, I guess the
Yeah.
way you said it would be
And
best.
There's probably like a panic that hits.
Yeah.
I would think if
Yeah.
you're realizing it. So I would just swim. I think I'd probably go diagonal right out of the gate. I'd want to feel like I was making progress towards shore still. But you're supposed to go parallel to the
Yeah.
beach till you know you're out of it, then back in.
There were a couple rip current disappearances where people just went missing on the beach, and they think that that's what happened.
Yeah.
Happened like last week.
So
Yeah, 100 people die in the U.S. every year.
what's the difference between a rip tide and a rip current?
Again, I don't want to say. All I know is that when I was reading all the articles, everyone was making fun of all the people that used the wrong one. So
Really?
people that were saying rip tides were just getting blasted.
Yeah.
So I think I would assume that the tide is like what happened when we were in the tornadoes, where the whole entire waves were like pushing outwards. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because there was a storm or something.
You got the water coming into shore,
Like a wave.
and then it's got to come back. Meanwhile, other water is still coming into shore. So I think riptide is the undercurrent.
Oh.
The undertow.
That's kind of a
But-
guess, though. So I don't.
But
quote me
whereas
on
this
that,
is
but
like a straight river shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would be my guess. At the
I wonder
difference.
what causes that. That's so random.
Well, I think what happens is, so you know how
You know what? I didn't look that up. Come to that, I didn't look that
well,
up.
you know, like when you're out in the ocean boogie boarding, and then
Yeah.
like
In a
you'll
hurricane?
get it. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
in a
really good
hurricane.
at boogie boarding.
Well, you'll get in the water in one spot where you set down all your stuff, but then when you want to get out, you're 50 yards down the beach.
Yeah.
I think it's where those two like. Where one's going, a set of waves is going this way, the other one set is going this way, and it all just builds up right there, and it flushes out in that one spot. Like you can kind of see. I mean, I don't know, but like kind of where that pier is, it's almost like they're kind of heading towards each other. So you have,
I see that.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think that might be
It is
a slight cause of
crazy
it.
because I was in the ocean a couple weeks ago, and like you literally just go out as far as you want, and then just stand there and kind of meddle, and then next thing you know, like you said, you're 50 yards left
Yeah,
or right, and
yeah.
you didn't do anything. It just happens. It's
Yeah.
weird.
The next one is one that I'm actually looking forward to being able to say that I know around people that haven't listened to this podcast, because then they'll know where I gathered the info. But a ring around the moon. So these rings are formed when very thin, high up. It's how do you
Cirrus clouds.
Cirrus clouds. I didn't want to say it wrong.
Nice.
Wrong. Did I say wrong? Clouds drift above you. The clouds are made up of tiny ice crystals that split and reflect the light, thus making a ring around the sun or moon. Now, these clouds often come before a storm. The ring can be a sign that the rain is on its way in the next day or two. So if you should see this, that low pressure, system is probably coming up to disrupt what you're experiencing at the time, where it's a nice sunny day. So when you see those rings around the moon and sun, that's a good sign that you're probably going to get hit with some weather. So we're in the mountains and we have no communication with anybody in the middle of Alaska, and I just keep talking about the rings around the moon. We got to keep hunting, Jeffrey. You can't just keep sitting down. We have to get a moose before, And then AJ's like, well, why do we have to keep going? And I'm like, because of the rings around the moon, AJ. We have to get this moose before it starts raining.
I would have
I
thought it
already
was.
don't want to go. He's super annoying.
We already
a week
lost
of this?
Ryan. We can't lose anybody else.
Why am I dead?
And I don't know. We ate you. So anyhow,
I thought it would be some like light reflecting off some swamp gas in Venus.
Which brings us to the next tip.
Area 51.